All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining today. We are so excited to have a conversation about practice management, and we have our CEO of LegalSoft Solutions, Hamid Kohan, with us today. Hamid, thank you for taking the time.
Thank you, Paul. Very excited to have a conversation today.
Yes. So what we're going to focus on is practice management tips, and hopefully you guys will walk away with some useful information. And then we have a surprise at the end for everybody who attended today. So Hamid, we'll jump right in. Talking about law firms and their web presence, what do you think firms make, what's their biggest mistake that they're making in regarding their online footprint?
Okay, well, originally when the online presence became important in the practice, it came as a way of, basically having some sort of a presence. So when people go into the website and searching and trying to, find some basic information about the firm, that was the sole purpose of it in the beginning. And that has changed dramatically in the past few years, where it's becoming a place where not only trying to validate the practice and attorney and the team members within the firm and making it more personable. So it's just not a formal presence with basically some pictures and some, content that is very old and not relative. So the new wave is a place where things get validated, basically a social validation, where people before doing anything, they used only to go to the website. But now it has changed. They go to the website to see it. Well, they actually exist, where they are, who they are. Then they immediately moving into the social media to find out, what is their beliefs, what is the culture, how relevant they are. So a lot of the practices start by saying, well, we're in a law practice. Why do we need a social media? Social media is what it is. Social media is not that anymore. It's sort of mistitled. It's a platform now that you need to exist on, just like almost like staying current with the laws and the practices and all the the bar requirements and so forth. Social media is becoming just as important. So it needs to be relevant, it needs to be informative, and this is where people go, not to just look at the information, validate so they can work with the firm. Also, some people make a mistake thinking of social media. If I invest in social media, both in content and engagements and so forth, is a lead generation. It can be, but that's not longer in the purpose of it. Is where you've already been referred or you went through a lead system and got a lead, they go into the social media so you can convert that lead or referral into a client. So it's a place to validate where I'm going to go work with this team, with this attorney, with this law firm, and is not a lead generation source.
So that is great advice. What have you found in working with your clients that in that same vein with social proofing? What type of specific content do you think lends itself for social media?
The most important is like recent cases that people actually relate to. When they hear the attorney or the client or a former client talks about a case, how it went, what the challenges were, what was the results and the outcome of the cases, it makes it very important for the people can relate to, because still the portion of the law is not that simple for everyone to understand. But when you're telling the story about a client, about their situation, about the outcomes and so forth, people can relate to. So it's a place to do that, making those connections and basically, again, getting validated that you're the one to go to because you solve somebody else's problem that they can relate to on social media.
So in that regard, you would advise that law firms have to put real effort into gathering video content, almost testimonials from their own clients to create this relatable content.
Yeah, they should do that when they're absolute solo practitioner. After they actually got cases to work on, they got to get somebody else to do it. Because basically what happens is when you start up a practice, you are everything. You create your own website, you do your social media, you do your case management software, you're everything. But the problem is that a lot of people get stuck in that mode and they don't know when to phase out of doing the things that somebody else should be doing for the practice. Social media is one of them. They start out pretty well, and then the more cases they get, instead of strengthening the social media, they start doing less and less of it because they think they should be doing it. This is when you outsource it to somebody who will do the social media posting for you. And they actually spend some time on it to creating video content, legal content, and be able to post it and also engage. Because if you don't engage and you just post, it's not going to be interactive. People are going to message it. People are going to, ask questions. So somebody got to be available to actually follow up with that.
That goes back to your website comment that it's clients have gotten savvy, that it's not just about static information. It's the engagement back with the law firm.
Right. They need to relate. It's not, almost when you look at some of the websites that I look at from the law firms, it almost looks like the advanced yellow pages that you used to get. It's like more colorful, but it still looked like a page out of the yellow pages. And hasn't been updated, hasn't been made more relevant. Mm-hmm. And the content is not, helpful or informative. And there is no video testimonials. There's nothing like having a client video testimonial. Everybody can relate when they're seeing another person like yourself with the same set of issues that got resolved. And those are the video testimonials, both on the website and the social media.
I love that. I think that's so true, Hamid. You can have a stamp of approval on a restaurant, but if it's a friend that you trust that says the food is good, you go and try it. And I think that the same is true of a service. So it is, you're so right.
Absolutely.
Taking that into, or segueing, that's referrals. And, it is, I know that when I was practicing full time, I thought about referrals all the time and never did it. So what do you find to be attorneys' biggest mistake when they think about their referral network?
Absolutely. Again, when you're a solo and you're starting out, you put a lot of effort to friends and families and neighbors and colleagues and the old college buddies and all of that. And you start spreading the word around because you can't afford to spend a lot of money starting your practice. So you want to get referrals. So again, it goes like the social media also, is that you do a lot of it. And once you start getting cases and you're getting busy to actually do the, lawyering of the business, you stop doing the referral outreach. And even in larger firms who retain hundreds of cases a month, they still miss that part of you need to have a systematic way of continuing to collecting referrals and reaching out to everybody to get the referral is the best way to get a client. Now, another thing I want to tell you about the referrals, I always use this example of my presentations, is like when they get the referrals, I haven't seen one single attorney, and I know thousands of them now, that truly appreciate the value of the referral. They take it for granted. And I always use the example, you have this friend who sends you a very expensive Rolex watch on your birthday every single year. And you basically just send him an email back, say, thank you, John. I mean, that's not the way you will basically treat a family member or friend who does that. You will reach out to them, you send them, greetings on the holidays, you buy them gifts, you do all kinds of stuff. You go out and take them to the most expensive restaurant. This guy, for the past 10 years, has been sending you a Rolex watch for every birthday. Most of the cases I see me referred has that kind of a value. But the attorneys just basically send the email back, thanks, John, thanks, Paul, for the referral. We appreciate it. And that's it. And so
what do you think they should do, Hamid? Because you're kind of blowing my mind, because now I feel like guilty out of half my career because I've just done that. I've sent emails.
Yeah, everybody does that. But the thing about it is that when you do a resource planning, when you have that kind of a referral, you need to get your admin, your virtual staff, somebody who's not consistently actually building up a referral network so you can get continuous referral. And then you have sort of a appreciation program or incentive program with this person keeps a track for you and says, okay, I know John's birthday is coming up. I'm going to send him this amazing gift, or their anniversary is coming up, or this is a Christmas. I'm going to send a huge, gift basket or something. And they don't do that. They just stuck to a text message or an email saying, hey, thanks, Paul, for that $1 million case. I mean, you don't do that. You got even a $10,000 case. True. You really got to appreciate this person, because most likely it's not the only first one or the last one you're getting. You're getting several of those, and the emails is not enough. You need to appreciate your referrals and put a system in place to continuously appreciate what they're doing for you.
Thank you for that. Can you touch on, because I know that when I first started working with you, Hamid, I was gun shy of fee sharing, fee splitting, because bar associations just drive it in your head that it's just don't touch it. And you open my eyes. Can you talk on that to assuage, the fear over fee sharing and referring a case? Again, going back to the thousands of attorneys and hundreds of firms that I work with, I have never came across one situation where the fee sharing became an issue, as long as it's done in the right way. I mean, the fee sharing, the client needs to be aware of it, which is usually in the retainer, telling them that, look, we have a possibility of we do a co-counsel or fee sharing or referrals or whatever with other firms. So the client needs to know somewhere within the retainer or in the notification, like you're getting subbed in or subbed out of the case. So as long as and you're not going against anything that bar limits, like in Florida, the bar limits the referral fee to 25%. It's actually one of the only states that does that. There's a few other states have limitations, but Florida is more restrict. But in California, for example, or New York, is very easily done and is all legit. And if you talk to ethics attorneys, they give you some guidelines, but is also you got to be careful when you're dealing with ethics attorneys, because they're like a CPA. If you ask my CPA, I'm putting gas in my car. Can I write it off on my taxes? And he goes, well, it depends. Are you going to work with that gas, or are you going, to eat lunch and then go to work? And if you do, it's not qualified. I'm like, okay, I'm not going to figure that out. I put gas in my car to go to work, so I'm going to write it off. Exactly.
So you got to be careful. You got to do it right. But I haven't seen anybody getting in real trouble doing the referrals.
And so also, I think that most people think of personal injury as, I have a client and I can pass this case on. But you are actually referring to, if you're a criminal attorney and someone calls for family law, you should refer it out and make money off of that.
Yeah, and you're going to do a little bit of work, so it makes it all, ethical, which basically you talk to the client, and end of the day, you're an attorney anyway. So you're able to talk to the client, do some screening. I was like, are you calling me to do, family law consultation, or you actually want to file for divorce, or you want to file for custody, or you want to change your separation agreement, or things like that. So you're doing a bit of a screening, and that justifies a fee, because now you have to spend your professional time intaking or retaining a client. And once you get that information is when you're passing it out to John and say, hey, John, I have this client. They've been married 15 years. They have 2 kids. They have a property, blah, blah. And she wants to, follow through with the divorce proceedings. So that makes you eligible for a fee sharing.
And that is a brilliant example of kind of how your experience is bringing to a lawyer business holistic thinking and an approach, which segues into us with virtual staffing. Can you talk about some of the big advantages for the business side of a law firm in outsourcing?
Absolutely. This is definitely a COVID winner situation where I came to the office one day, and out of the 20 staff, I was the only one in there. And I figured out, oh, geez, it looked like it's going to only be me for a while. And everybody was working from home. And some worked out really good, some didn't. But I figured out if they're not in the office next to me, then it doesn't really matter where they are. Because if I cannot walk to the desk in front of me and say, hey, John, what's up with this? Then I got to make an email, call, chat, Slack, I got to do something. So it doesn't matter how far, what the distance is at that point. So that opened up the virtual staffing and said, okay, every single firm I know, from the guys who started yesterday to the guys who have 300 staff in the PI firm, they have a staffing issue. They can't find the right people. They can't compensate them properly. They're all overpaid for most parts. They support the staff. And nobody wants to come to work 5 days a week anymore. Everybody wants to leave early, coming late, and they want all kind of benefits. So, and they want to work from home. So if I want to go do all of that, I might hire somebody who is very grateful to have a job, who will show up every time on time. He will listen exactly to what I have to say. They're not going to second guess me. They're not going to bring their whole, culture into it.
Yeah.
And they're very inexpensive and scalable. So if I can have that, why do I need to go to the hassle of hiring 10 people in my office? It's going to be a hybrid. I'm not a fan of like 100% virtual, but there is a hybrid. There is a 75-25 format that a lot of firms do now. So I make a list of everything that I'm doing or my staff is doing that somebody else could be doing virtually. It starts out with the intake. Again, we trust a stranger in the call center with no training to answer my calls and answer my leads that I have no control over. I have no training done with them. But how come I cannot have my own intake staff that is full-time, dedicated, working for my firm only, being pre-trained by LegalSoft, and also I have done the training, and is inexpensive, it's quarter the cost of the in-house staff. So here goes intake. Take all of my intake, bilingual, 24/7. They work at any schedule, so it's a no-brainer. Then you come into every kind of a practice. You got tons of document collections all the time. I don't know a practice that doesn't have a document collection. It's a medical record, employment records, even on the DUI and the criminals and state planning, everything has a document collection. But you don't need a $60,000 a year cost staff in your office to sit down and do a $10 an hour kind of a task. So here goes all document collection. They call, they email, they collect the documents, they park it in your case management software or your Google Drive or your Dropbox, and they don't complain and they love to work 8 hours a day. So that's one that. Legal assistance. I have a great assistant who's on this call also. She manages my calendar, which basically means she manages my life. I don't have to worry about it. So for a minimum cost, I got my whole life taken care of on the calendar. I don't need somebody in the office to sit in the desk in front of me, which is going to cost me 3 times more. And I always have to worry when I'm coming in if she's actually coming in too. So it's like done that. And the latest one, which you have on the screen, is called the marketing specialist. All of these marketing items that became very complex and complicated within the firms. Before it was very easy. You basically put up a website, run an ad, put in yellow pages, you're good to go. You didn't need a marketing coordinator. Now with, okay, what am I going to do with my Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, my website, my blogs, my membership? I mean, that itself is a hell of a lot of work that somebody needs to coordinate, not just do, but coordinate it, making sure I need to do electronic newsletter. I need to do press announcements. I need to do SMS marketing for the holidays, client retention, client surveys, all of this stuff. You get a marketing VA and you give them this whole task list. This is all they do. So you don't have to do it and you don't have to hire an expensive marketing person in-house to actually do all of this. And there is no one single marketing person that you can hire that can do the entire list that I talked about. You're probably going to end up either compromising a lot or you're going to need to get 3. So,
right.
And
Well, and they
really.
end up outsourcing it to third party anyway. And
Exactly. But there's still a lot of internal coordination that needs to be done to get this thing done. Even if you hire a third party, they can say, okay, John, give me all this information about your recent, settlement or recent client or something new to talk about the changes in law. Somebody needs to do all of that preparation, and a marketing VA is the best choice for that.
absolutely. I think what is so great about that particular one is that marketing isn't necessarily always linked to physically making the content creation, but it's like what you said, it still takes up space on your calendar to review and have a point of contact. And thinking creatively about outsourcing it to cut the cost but still getting the benefit is exactly the type of practice tip that people should be implementing.
Yeah, exactly. I have a lot of consultation with the solo practitioners or people just starting out, and this was how we came up with a way of actually setting up and growing a practice in 90 days. I ask them everything they do, and they name all of this stuff that I just named. And my question is that, so when you went to school to do all of these? No, I have no training. Okay. You went to law school. How much lawyering are you doing? Very little. So yeah. I'm like, you definitely wasted the 3 or 4 years with a big bill, a student loan to do the stuff that you shouldn't be doing. And you're basically not doing anything that you went to school for. Okay.
Well, I think I agree with you. And I think the feedback is that when you free up lawyers' time, they actually are servicing their clients better and doing more of a justice when they put a little bit of effort into getting strong infrastructure through VAs. They're better lawyers for it.
Right. Absolutely. So that's basically, some of the, recipes for success and some of the things, a lot of things, as you saw, a lot of my conversations is about the things not to do, not the things to do. If you can actually stop doing the things that you're not supposed to do, you're ahead of it. Then if you start actually doing the stuff you're supposed to do, then you advance and grow and get much. I have firms that we implemented this for that have grown, you won't believe it, like 300-400% a year for past 3 years, which is unheard of. But the big thing was that they did what they're supposed to. They stopped doing what they're not supposed to, and they implemented. The ideas are all there. Everything I talked about is very much of a common sense. It's not magic. It's all common sense that people just don't get the chance to do.
Well, you're helping them execute. It's the same thing of a personal trainer in the gym. We all know that we're supposed to work out. We just don't show up. And that's the type of support and the service that LegalSoft is giving firms. So I want to open up to where we can take some questions. If anyone has any questions, use the raise hand feature and we will allow you to come on and ask your question to Hamid. All right. James, you can ask your question.
Yes. Hi. So my question is, if I'm trying to make a law firm model that's completely remote and using all virtual staff, then how do I get a virtual assistant that can help me deposit checks that come in the mail?
Hi, James.
Hi.
James, the only portion, we're actually having a solution for that too. Now we're actually creating a virtual staff services through our platform where we can actually handle your mail, not only collecting and depositing checks. And we know the issues with the trust account and operating account, and we have people who train on that. So we're pretty soon going to be offering that service. Also being able to have the virtual staff to do drop letter, engagement letter, some of the insurance and even medical records, and it requires a signature to be able to do that, where the virtual staff will create all of that and it gets printed in the local location in the US and it gets stamped, enveloped, mailed, and the verification and the tracking number is provided to the firm in the case management software and to the person. So this was the last piece of the process that we had to solve, exactly what you point out, because I know your firm already worked with a lot of VAs. So you have I know you have intake VAs, case manager VAs, medical record VAs. You have all of that, and you're absolutely right. The last piece that is missing is the physical part of printing, mailing, depositing, which we just resolved for that.
So in the chat, Hamid, it was asked how far out is LegalSoft from offering that particular service you were just speaking of?
We're about 30 days out to provide that. And it's going to be a series of services they can, like I described, both being able to attend to the incoming mail and the outbound mail with verification. And by the way, the latest one that we just released, thanks to Paul, is an ability to have VAs who produce mass demands. So the demand writing issue that every single client that I have is talked to is being resolved currently with a very inexpensive template-based, reviewed by the attorney demands that can be published.
Yeah, we're super excited about that. And it is the talent that we have sourced is unbelievable. Thomas, you raised your hand if you want to ask your question. You are free to do so.
If I leave the text, also processes checks. Oh, LawPay. Yes, they do that as one of the sources that actually do the payment processing. We're trying to centralize all the activities and all the needs and requirements of the firm in this one single platform that is now in the process of being released, called the Legal Practice Management 360. Every single component of practice that I talked about, with the exception of the actual case management software, is included in one platform, and including the payment processing and all that I think in the future sessions, we're going to review that and show you guys how that works.
Yeah, that's amazing. So please keep coming back. Thomas, I see your hand is back up and that we've opened it up. If you have your question, you are free to ask.
Thanks. Yeah. What if you're not happy with any of the particular VAs that you get? What's the process for getting a new one? Or
is immediate. This is one of the luxury of the VA services, is because I tell all of my clients, you should have a zero tolerance policy with the VA, okay? And within reason, I mean, being reasonable, because some trainings require some mistakes happens in the beginning and all of that. But the thing is that if you're not happy with your VA, you just get them replaced right away. And this is another beautiful thing about it, is that you don't have to be compromising all the time. When I go to I was meeting with one of the largest PI firm in Florida last week. And one of the problems they had, because they're so large, and they had 26 case managers. And I asked a question, how many of them are you happy with? How many you're not? They said, well, 10 of them for sure we are not happy with. But what the heck, I'm not going to spend all my resources trying to replace those 10. So they keep lowering their standards and they're compromising. They keep the low performing folks around. With a VA, you don't have that situation. I have firms like I mentioned that have 46 VAs. They don't like 4, they exchange it. They get 4 new VAs until they meet all of their standards.
Yeah, I piggybacking on that. I think, Hamid, part of the onboarding process that virtual staffing does is the unintended consequence for the attorney is it forces you to really look at the specific task in a stage of a case, and then with simple tools like recording what you're doing on a computer, you are doing a training video exactly how you would do it. These VAs, then it is, think of like Ford Motor. It is, they will press that red button 8 times in a row, because that's what you said. And so you're getting higher quality work, less stress, and freeing your time to do the high billable hours.
And since you're getting a direct invoicing from a third party, being virtual staffing, LegalSoft solution, when you have tasks like medical records retrievals, lien reductions, if you handle it properly, it will become a case cost, which means it's not going to cost your firm anything to do those tasks. Because if you divide it up into the number of records they collected, the number of demands they wrote, or the lien reductions they done, because it's a service to the client. It can be part of a case cost if you choose to. And even if you don't decide to do that, you can indicate it into your settlement and your release, identifying that there was these fees that would have been come out of the total settlements, but as an in-kind, you're taking on those costs yourself, which the clients always appreciate, where there was a cost coming out of the case, but you actually took it on. So you can either get appreciated or you can actually save the money.
Yeah, it's huge. Anybody else have any other questions for Hamid?
I've got another question then.
Sure.
You're talking an awful lot about personal injury cases, and I don't know if that's just most of your experience, but do you do other areas of law as well?
Oh, we do everything. It's just that the personal injury firms have the most amount of problems. so bigger problem, bigger solution, number of solutions. Otherwise, yeah, I mean, employment, we do a lot of employment, both from single action to class action, criminal, DUIs, immigration. One of my biggest clients is an immigration firm, which we expand crazy expansion. And he's a guy who's a younger guy who just wants to do VA, even more than what I would recommend. He's doing VAs. What type of a practice you had in mind?
I do primarily estate planning and family law.
Okay. So estate planning, just exploring a little bit of estate planning and the family law, and it's sort of the referral sources from those could be the same. One of the biggest wins I've seen with estate planning is the referral sources, and the referral sources are becoming from wealth management folks, from CPAs, from financial analysts, and so forth. So having somebody in a VA essentially who goes on your LinkedIn and finds every one of those people within your reach in the state and does a connection on your LinkedIn, so you're not connected to 3,000 CPAs and 1,000 financial analysts or bankers and things like that, who know the people who have estates to be planned, and that's your source. So building that LinkedIn and then start connecting with them, setting up a 10-minute call with you to be able to say, look, John, I do estate planning. Which area you're at? What state you're in?
I'm in Maryland.
Okay, great. So you're basically telling them, look, I'm here, I'm available. I love to talk to you. I love to help your clients. And I also like to refer clients to you, right? Because it's always a bi-directional. So you always have to bring something to the table. But if you have somebody who sits down and sets up those calls and recommendations for you on a regular basis, you pretty much don't need to advertise anymore, because you're going to get so many referrals from these folks, because these are the CPAs who basically, when they want to do anybody's taxes, that is expanded taxes, they have a bunch of properties, the assets and so forth, they immediately going to say, oh, you need to do estate planning. And I know a great attorney who does estate planning. Boom, you got that. But remember, when you got that referral from them, make sure you appreciate it.
Yeah. Yes, dude. To piggyback on that, like in family law, if you're thinking about how do you use a virtual assistant, every divorce has a disclosure of assets. You, the attorney, don't need to be on the phone filling out paperwork with your client. A VA can email a form and follow up and collect all that. They can follow up on requests for interrogatories, court docketing. Think about anything that's transactional in the stage of your case that can be broken up into a step that's trained to a virtual assistant.
Right. Renee had a question about expanding into immigration. So are you looking to get immigration cases or looking for the attorney to hire to do your immigration cases?
Really looking for an attorney that can do immigration. I guess kind of bringing someone else new into the firm who can also mostly center around immigration, but can do other things as well.
Okay.
And just not really sure how to go about finding that. Right.
Absolutely. First of all, you don't need to bring an immigration attorney in the office at all, because immigration is federal. So you they could be on moon and practicing immigration for you. It's not like these other practice areas where you need to be a state license, a state rules, a state stuff is everywhere. So the immigration attorney I told you about, he had like 4 or 5 in-house legal, attorneys, which was in California, in LA, cost of living. It was just going crazy. We weren't going anywhere. We pretty much got rid of about 70% of them. It started hiring contract attorneys all over the country. Places like Wisconsin and Arkansas, cost of living is like a quarter of here, and people are willing to work harder and they're happy. So we started basically having cases going to these folks on a fixed cost. I don't want to do hourly. I don't want to do salary. I don't want to have employment. I basically say, okay, you're doing an E2, E5, family immigration, student visas, work visas, whatever. I put a price tag on it. I said, I give you $500 to do this, $950 to do that, $1,500 to do this. And we started spreading around about 600 cases in 3 months.
Isn't that amazing?
We distributed between all the attorneys nationwide who need work and be happy to. By the way, one calculation we did before we do that, the cost of doing the average case for us here was $3,500. We reduced it by distributing it into a network to $1,500.
It is. Hamid, do you also find on that with COVID, federal courts have really started using WebEx and have not really gone back to a lot of in-person hearings? That almost even opens up the door more because no one physically really has to be present. They just have to hear. Absolutely.
And Renee, by the way, there is one of the biggest conference for immigration is happening in end of June in New York with 3,000 immigration attorneys attending. We actually exhibitor on that, and so does this attorney that I told you about, because he's coming to exhibit to recruit attorneys to work for him. It's gone that far. So if you ever wanted to get more into that, I would definitely attend that conference.
Yeah, thank you. We can take a couple more and then we have to wrap up and so if anyone has any last questions, we'll take that. Otherwise, PJ, can you go to our last slide? We wanted to thank, James, I'll let you ask that question. We wanted to thank everyone for attending today and have a special offer that you can claim a free mobile app that we'll develop for you, or we will do a website for you. And so we'll reach out, our staff, and make sure that you all take advantage of that. We just so appreciate you taking the time today. James, did you want to ask your one last question? And then Hamid, I'll let you make some closing remarks.
Thank you.
Yeah, just one quick question here. So if you were to start like a new practice, say in personal injury, and you're starting to get a good amount of cases, maybe like around 30 to 50, and you're starting to get to the point where you want to hire someone like a VA to start doing work, like what tasks would you recommend like outsourcing first?
I think James, the intake and the case management. Look, the case management and the PI, you've been doing this for a while, when you sign up the case, open the case, the first thing you do, you collect the insurance policy, you collect the police report, and then you start setting this person up for treatment. Go to the MRI, go to the chiro, go to the general practitioner, all of this. This is all coordination work. You're still not doing any lawyering. He hasn't even got to the point to do lawyering. So I get a virtual assistant and give him the complete instructions on how to do this repeatedly going forward. And you basically get your first virtual assistant case manager and you're good to go.
That's great. Great. Hamid, you gave some great tips today. So please close it out for us.
The close is that try to be as organized as possible, simplify the process, don't do the stuff that you're not supposed to do, and learn to do what you're supposed to do as an attorney and an owner of the practice. And don't try to be everything, because then you get stuck in that mode and it's very difficult to get out of it, and you build habits that is not going to benefit you financially. So that's basically what I would say in the end.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. It was a really, really fun day.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.